Oh, well, here we are again talking about coaching. My name is Yannick, this is Sivash, and we have Nikki. And one question that has been asked from various different people is it best to coach face-to-face as compared to online via Zoom or Skype on the telephone? So there's I think for many people there's an assumption that face-to-face coaching is the best. But I also know some people, they only coach via telephone. So I just wanted to put that question out there and we can talk about it.
Yeah, great question. What do you think?
My personal preference, I think, would be face-to-face. It's true. Although I've been doing some of my own coaching and have been previously coached via Zoom or via Skype. At least at the recipient of coaching, I prefer the face-to-face. In
Why?
terms of me personally?
Yeah.
I think there's something really powerful about co-presence. I think that preference can be maybe linked to which sense you most engage with. For me personally, that's the visual and the physical sense. So in that sense, that's very powerful, and that's how I receive a lot of information and cues, both for reading my client or for, I imagine, a benefit from that being coached as well. I do like otherwise an online platform because I find for myself that's an extension of that. I've not tried just telephone coaching or text coaching. I think as a coach, I would definitely be open to those methods and would actually love to experience those more. As a recipient, again, personally, I definitely feel quite attached to the face-to-face.
I think there's something when we're in the room with somebody that is, I don't want to say magic because it's not really magic, because there's something going on, that you can't quite recreate in the same way via phone or via online. There's, maybe it's like, I think it does matter how a person smells. Like you don't know, you might not notice that they smell a certain way, but I think there's something in being in the room together, a handshake or like a touch on the shoulder when they arrive or something like that. It makes a connection that cannot be recreated easily via online modes. But then I was really surprised at the first time I received online coaching, how powerful that actually was.
Sure, yeah.
And the first time I worked with a client via phone, I was like, oh my god, this is because as a client I was able to go into my mind a lot more without having somebody looking at me, trying to getting stuff out, sometimes we feel like we need to, we have this expectation from the coach that we need to say something now. I think you have more space to think. And sometimes I think that's why the psychoanalyst sits behind the client often. Because you want to facilitate a conversation between the client and the client. You don't really want to guide or influence. And you are always influencing just by looking at somebody. Or the client says something, you're like, it shows in your face somehow.
Yeah.
So I can see both sides. So they come with advantages and disadvantages.
Definitely,
right?
yeah.
What do you think, Siraj?
Yeah, I think all of them. I've tried all of them, and have received different types of coaching, face-to-face, then online, and with my current coach, it's all phone. Through the phone, and initially that was really awkward because I put my camera on and there was no camera on the other side, and then I turned it off, but now it actually helps me really become present in the moment, right, present to the coaching. But I think it comes from experimentation, as in a lot of different areas of coaching, it's about trying different things out. Personally, I enjoy it in person, but I think it has its limitations. Right, so I work with clients from 8 different countries, and I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and it takes a bit of time to travel, either for you or for the client. So I really enjoy in person, but again,
there's also really a power when somebody travels to you, because there's a coach I worked with who says, I don't do that kind of stuff. You need to come see me, and if you're not willing to come see me, how committed are you really?
Yeah.
And some coaches, some clients fly out to their coaches, if we go in higher kind of regions,
For sure,
if you pay £3,000 for a session, you might as well pay 4,000 and fly there and really have that time to think on the way there what I'm going to use the session for. I mean, that's a bit insane, but if you travel an hour or two to see your coach, on my way to see the coach, I've had so many ideas. When I traveled 2 hours to see a coach, I knew exactly what I wanted to talk about. You know, sometimes I only started really thinking about what I want to use the session for, but having that time to travel there and travel back, they added a lot to what I got from the coaching. You know, and I have that sometimes somebody tunes in via Zoom and they're like still shaking because they're looking for a room and they're on a busy work day, and then we have to spend quite a bit of the session just to kind of, you know, calm, like breathe, like arrive. You know, and if somebody comes here, I notice there's a different like here's my consulting room. It's a different atmosphere because somebody purposefully traveled to go somewhere to make time for themselves. You know, and it's very easy to just jump on a call straight from another call and okay, now we're coaching, you know, and then you have to work a little bit on like, okay, let's arrive in the coaching space because this is different. When I see clients in organizations, I try to take them out of that space into a different space. You know, in the very beginning, I saw clients at home, you know, and it was important to take them out of their normal environment to make particular space for coaching. And that's why I think it's quite useful when they come to see somebody. But it's not always practical, you know, as you say, like you can't work with many people if you don't offer online services.
Yeah, and I think, you know, what I do now in my one-on-one coaching, I combine it. So I'm working with a client from America. We have 4 in-depth sessions spread over a year. So there'll be 2 in London, 2 in California, right? And it's just again that I think that, like you mentioned it earlier on, that in person creates a connection that you probably can't match online, right? Just giving each other a hug, actually spending some quality time together, and that builds the bond and the relationship. And I think coming back to the fundamentals, that the relationship is so important for a coaching business. So I try to experiment more with that, and I would really encourage people to do that. If you're doing online, bring a little bit of in person.
Yeah, if you have I did that in the very beginning. I'm like, let's meet once via in person, and then afterwards we can go to any mode that feels useful. But I wanted to meet people in person, and then working more and more online now. I think it's about half of my clients are online, mostly via Zoom. I'm not sure why I don't have more telephone clients. It's just I don't really push that angle, although I really enjoy it and it's really useful. The clients I do work on the phone with, it's really, really good. It depends a bit on the client what they feel good about as well, because by definition you're missing out on information when you don't see them, because you don't see body language. If you see them here, you know, then you're missing out on the rest of the body, like nervous foot wiggling or, you know, twitching in the hands, or, you know, I had a client at some point, they're like, oh, and like into the camera, I was on Zoom, they're like, oh, I just broke my pen.
Wow.
Because they were talking about something that they were really nervous about, but I couldn't see it because it was outside of the camera.
Got you.
So I'm so happy that they kind of shared that with me. But like I would have picked up on that tension a lot earlier if I was able to see more than this.
Yeah.
You know? But on the other hand, you don't pick up on nuances. You get so much more focused on nuances and tonality when you have somebody on the phone.
Yeah.
You know, it's much easier to allow a silence. Because somebody's just there thinking, and sometimes you can hear somebody think, you know, and they don't feel under pressure because you're not looking at them. They don't feel accountable to you so much. They're just with themselves more. So
What I did personally, and what I would recommend is really start with one, get comfortable at it, because I got very comfortable online, but then in person was quite uncomfortable. And so I started building that up to a level where, hey, now I can do that with higher paying clients. And I think it's just really important, because if you just stick to one and you're all of a sudden in a different situation where someone wants to meet you in person and you're not comfortable, you might lose that client, or that, you know, it might not go through. So, and the same for phone calls, right? It's just actually being prepared to actually try all 3, because I remember coach that coaches CEOs and executives, normally she does phone calls, and this specific CEO said, look, I like an in-person or an online face-to-face, and that was for her a surprise, and it put her a little bit off.
Yeah, and I mean, we did this conversation. I'm not sure if it's going to be out already when you see this, or we're going to put it later. How do you dress as a coach? Because all of a sudden that matters. What's the background that I have on a camera? You know, where am I going to see my client? You know, do I have my own consulting room, or do I need to go in a hotel lobby, or do I rent a room somewhere? How much more do I need to charge if I do that? You know, so there's a lot of other questions that come around when you decide to see a client face to face or with a video on. So in short, is it best face to face? Well, it has different pros and cons, and not even cons necessarily, but like different weightings on what's important and what you can pick up on. And it depends on the client what they feel comfortable with, depends on the coach what they feel comfortable with. They all have their unique advantages.
Yeah, definitely.
So I hope that answered your question and you got a little bit from that. Obviously there's this little subscribe video, you know, and if you want to send us a question, we'd be really happy to hear that, because we do this regularly and we're really interested in what you think.
See you next time.
Cheers. Hey guys, if you enjoyed that, you know what to do. Hit subscribe and send us a question. See you next time.